Hi, everyone. It's Stephanie here from Vegan Mainstream. I am excited about doing another one of our Webinar Wednesday series. Tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about social media, which I know many of you are excited to hear. What we're going to do tonight is really look at things more from a standpoint of trends. And then as I kind of walk you through those trends or walk you through what we're seeing people do or how they're changing their strategies or how they're better preparing their marketing approaches, especially as we're now kind of starting to all prepare for the holiday season time, is I want to make sure that you're thinking about social media a little bit differently. What I want you to do is really kind of see some of the numbers, the facts, the things that we're seeing differently in the way people are using social media and other devices and how that may affect your campaign. So I hope tonight is probably more of a little bit different style than some of our other webinars where I'm going to be more showing you what you should be thinking about and how that's going to affect maybe something you're going to do forward. All right. So today we're going to make it interactive as always, so you can always jump on Twitter and use the hashtag either VM Marketing or Vegan Biz Help. We use both of those hashtags, so feel free to use either one. If you're watching this on our actual website, we have a comment box there, a Facebook comment box. Feel free to actually use the Facebook comment box to put your comments in there. And then if you are looking at this on Google Plus or on YouTube, feel free to use the comment box there. I'll be checking for questions throughout the night, as you guys know, or anyone who's new to Webinar Wednesday. I love questions, so we can definitely make this interactive. So feel free to ask questions either now, or if you're feeling a little shy, feel free to ask me questions via email at a later date. Okay? So let's jump into our first slide of the night. The first slide I wanted to kind of talk about is who's on social media. Now, the reason why I kicked off with this slide, I'm not putting the trends or putting things in any numerical order from the standpoint of more important or less important. But I wanted to start here because I think there's a huge misnomer around social media and really the assumption that social media is for the young kids. And what I want to kind of change the mindset or really challenge many of you on is show you the distribution or who is on social media. So this is a consolidated look when you're looking at Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. And what this is doing is showing you how many people are online. So you see the number in the middle, about 179 million. So almost over half of the population. And this is a breakdown of percentage of users within each one of those buckets. So the reason I put this up is a lot of people think, that the older crowd, and it's challenging sometimes to know what people mean by the older crowd, but that maybe people of older ages, especially say baby boomers, even some of the Generation X's, because now many of them have families or older families, which for many of you are your target audience, because you're looking for people who either maybe have the income to purchase the products that you have, or the extra income to be able to invest in a product or service that you offer. So what I want to do is kind of turn any misconceptions out there that people have that there aren't older age groups in these social media channels, because the reality is they are. Now, the majority of the people, when you think of it from a social media standpoint, are in Facebook. So the largest number of people from this 179, about 100, I believe it was 100 and I think it was 130, maybe 140 of them were from Facebook. So if you are doing marketing in social media, if you do feel like your products skew older, please, please, please do not shy away from social media. Do not shy away from Facebook, because these segments are here. They are big. And the key here today I want you to take away is these are growing. eMarketer, who did the slide or put this data together, is actually predicting that this segment, the kind of 65 and plus, is continuing to grow in social media platforms. So not only are your people here, you're going to continue, if you're investing today, to see more and more people in some of those older buckets kind of on the left side of the page that are growing. The challenges with social media, especially platforms like Facebook, is you are seeing the numbers shrink on the 18 to 24 or the 25 to 34 level. You see more of those people. If you are looking for younger audiences, you definitely want to skew more towards Tumblr or Instagram. But we are seeing in Facebook that those numbers are dropping off. Now, they're dropping off, they're getting smaller, but they're not disappearing. So make sure when you think about your social media strategy, you really have the facts and the information there around who is truly out on these platforms and how you can market to them. Okay. The next thing is, let's talk about trend number 2 when I talk about, and I'm really big on this one because the power of video has really just taken off. And I bring this up because many of you, as you're thinking of using social media, or as you're thinking about promoting and marketing online, I think many of you think that if I'm using video or doing video, I have to have this cool, polished, looks like it was made by CNN, as an example, type of video to post online. And the reality is, raw footage and kind of that capturing the moment videos are really taking off on social media. As many of you have probably noticed, you're seeing more and more videos in Facebook. And what's really great, and even if you see the GIF files in Twitter, what most of them do nowadays is as you scroll up on the page, the video will start to play without the sound. And the reason why this is important, especially from a marketing standpoint, you're always trying to cut through the clutter. You're trying to get people's attention. And especially when you think of a news feed, there's just so much stuff going on. People are talking to their friends. So for you as a brand or as a business to get someone's attention, you need something new, unique, different, and often something that's moving, something that has kind of action to it is going to catch the user's eye. It's just the way kind of we work, and just the way that visual items tend to be more engaging, especially something that's moving. So I want you to think about, as you're building your strategy, as you're thinking about going into the holidays, and as you're trying to get more out of social media, start to use video. Start to use video as a way to capture events and activities, and do it in a very basic way. So when you think about implementing something like this, especially if you do a lot of shipping, maybe you're an online retailer, take videos of new products coming in, maybe products that have been back ordered, maybe shipments going out, or large shipments or new product lines going out. And they can be quick, fast videos of just showing what's going on, what's happening behind the scenes. Maybe if you're on the nonprofit side, or maybe you are an author, upload a quick video of you maybe at a Veg Fest speaking. Maybe upload a quick video of you, doing a book signing, or have someone videotape your book signing. Because you'll be surprised how many people come up, how people interact, the comments, the things that happen. And you can edit all this information down later. You may end up taking a 30-minute video and then editing down to obviously the more appropriate size on Facebook, which would be anywhere from 15 seconds up to, maybe a minute max for this type of marketing. But think about how you can take the activities, the things that are happening in your business, and leverage them. If you do cooking classes, do a quick video, or have someone do a quick video at your next cooking class that you can use online to give people a taste of what it's like. Maybe do a quick video if you're teaching something, teaching a person how to, especially from a cooking standpoint, meaning teaching people to use more fresh garlic in their food instead of powdered garlic, let's say, for example. So teach them how you take a head of garlic, how you smash it, get the skin off, and how you chop it quickly. That's an easy, quick video and native video that you can use on Facebook. And especially if you have a cool technique. Probably one of my favorite cool techniques is from Miyoko, where she has like a little, I guess kind of like a rock that she uses to smash the garlic. And I love it because it's a little bit safer than using my knife, which is what I tend to use. And I love her idea, rocks are free, so you can grab one that kind of fits your hand and use that all the time. So things like that, where you're giving people tips, advice, maybe you have vegan makeup and you want to show people quickly how to do, I don't know, a smoky eye or something like that. Or maybe some new trend, do something like that in video and upload that raw footage. Now, the thing that's a little bit different these days when it comes to video is when you create a video. In the past, we used to upload those things to YouTube. But what we're finding these days is YouTube is still viable and great because video is truly, truly taking off, especially as the cameras get better, as the cameras have more space on them so people can hold these videos, and also how the cameras and also social media platforms are allowing you to edit video either on your phone or in some cases in the platforms themselves. But what I advise you on is, if you do take on this strategy, if you start to find ways to incorporate more video, is make sure when you upload the raw footage, upload it directly into that platform. So in the past, people used to upload video into YouTube, and then we'd share that link over into YouTube instead, so you can get better ranking and you can also get more visibility. Facebook will give you better ranking and more visibility if you upload that video directly into Facebook as opposed to linking it over from YouTube. So use those little things. I mean, Instagram has video as well. I'm not sure how many people are aware of that, but Instagram is so great for images just because Instagram is so image, I guess the audience is image hungry, I guess I could say. So think about, if you are doing video, if you're doing more and more video, and even if you've been very successful on YouTube, think about how you can take that same content and maybe slice it down into something a little bit smaller so that you can start sharing it on other social media platforms to help you build audience, build awareness. And then you can always link over to the full-length video in YouTube, or you can tell people, if you're doing a cooking class, you can always transition them over into more content or into a blog post. But use those videos. You'll be surprised how much those videos are really going to create a huge avenue for you to reach new people, to cut through the clutter, and also allow people to connect with you more. Because when you get into that more animated phase, especially if you put yourself behind the camera, you're really going to start to see a lift in your social media engagement and activity. All right. The next trend I'm seeing a lot of people are doing, and also I'm promoting and teaching people to do as well, is to make sure you're using the advertisement arms of these social media platforms. I know many of you are probably familiar with Facebook ads, but almost all the platforms have some type of advertisement. Twitter has advertisement around tweets. Instagram actually has advertisement. Even Pinterest has what they call promoted pins. So if you find that you are getting great traction in one social media platform than another, I would recommend maybe start to look at how you can leverage advertising to really maybe harness that that experience, or I would probably say that success that you're having. And the reason I say this is, what people have done in the past is they've thought about advertising as more of a tool from a promotion standpoint. I have a new book coming out. I'm launching a new t-shirt line, or we have a new location, or you went from having a vegan food truck to having your first restaurant. And those things are good, but where I see the trend going, and we're seeing more and more what people are doing, is they're using advertisement to actually create more of a steady flow of traffic and a steady flow of really kind of a lead conversion process, so that there's always new people coming to your site and finding out about your products. Now, to do that, you have to have obviously the sales to support it. So if you're new, you're just starting out, you don't have much revenue coming in, this might not be your first strategy, because this can be expensive. But if you are in a state in your business where you're starting to see some revenue, some income coming in, maybe you're a consulting business and you have people coming in and signing up for consults, maybe you do online classes and people are signing up for those classes, or maybe you do offline classes, so in-person classes, and you're getting 10, 15 people to sign up. every month or every other month when you have your classes, what I'd recommend is start to create ads to help you maybe fill those classes even more. Start to really supplement or set up your class calendar for the year, and therefore 45 days out, 60 days out, have ads going out. So ultimately, it'll turn into a continual strategy because at all times you'll have a class coming up, as well as you'll have an advertisement that'll push people into those classes. Or the same thing goes if you actually have a product as well. But the idea is just to start to see advertisement as a tool to keep driving traffic to your site and through your sales process. And any of you have been maybe on any of my other calls, I know you know about me talking about sales funnels and converting traffic and getting people into landing pages. So all of this supports that type of approach. So you do want to make sure when you're doing this, you're not just sending someone to a buy now page that just has a photo, maybe a box description and a click here to buy. You're going to send them to a page that has a lot more information about the product. It engages them. It either is a page that can help convert them, or you may be sending them over to a lead page. Either way, what I want you to kind of take away today is starting to think about, how do I use ads on an ongoing basis? How do I use ads to promote what I have going on? And a good example from our perspective is I'm starting to use ads for our webinars as an example, because our webinars are a great way to get new content out, get ideas out like we're talking about tonight, and help the community, as well as it's a great lead generation tool for us because it helps people become aware of who we are. It helps people connect with us because they're able to get on our mailing list or find out that we have a newsletter. And as well as we can continue to communicate and talk with people. So what we've started to do is start to put ads up so that throughout the year, I always have an ad ready for the next webinar that's coming up. And since we do them once a month, I'm pretty much advertising, especially as I move into 2016. We just started doing this in 2015. But as I roll into the next year, every month I'll have ads up that are actually constantly bringing in new people and constantly making sure people are aware of this service. So you want to do the same thing, especially if you're using webinars or using tools like that for lead generation. Maybe you have an ebook that people can sign up for. Why not set up that process so you have ads coming in every month? Having traffic coming in every single month, every single week, every single day. Now, with this strategy, I don't want you to go too crazy with it. And this is something where you're going to set it up as a steady expense because you're expecting a steady kind of income stream coming from it. So therefore, when you set up the strategy, maybe you're only doing $5 a day or $10 a day. So you're not doing a huge investment, but that steady $5 and $10 a day, and especially as your revenue grows and as your business grows, those numbers can go up, can help you build that steady traffic into a sales funnel that you know is already performing. Okay? And then the other thing is, and we'll talk a little bit about this as well, is you have to make sure all of this stuff is trackable. So I'll talk in a few minutes about the analytics and the back end and making sure we're using that. But more and more of the advertising campaigns, and what's great about the advertising campaigns is they have amazing dashboards to let you know who you're connected with. You can target audiences. You can find people who have certain interests, maybe belong to certain organizations. This is really great when you're targeting people who are maybe in professional trade groups and so forth. So advertising, while advertising itself isn't necessarily something new, it's what I'm seeing more and more people doing is using advertising as really their trend. They're doing the same thing. They're using it for YouTube videos. So they're sending ads or creating ads that send people to YouTube videos, which videos are used to convert people and push them into the sales funnel. Okay? So make sure if you have a sales funnel, you have a process that's working. Like I said, you're getting a few people sign up a week, a few people sign up a month for an event or a mastermind program you have or an online course. Then try to use ads so that instead of just getting a few people a month, the idea is how do we perfect that process so that almost every day you have someone signing up. Okay? The next trend I want to talk about is mobile. Now, for many of you, when we think about mobile, we're talking about phones. I'm talking about iPads. I'm talking about the fact that people are starting to use their phones more than they are using their desktops to access information and content. Now, for many of us, we know that trend was coming. But one thing when you think about from a social media campaigns and social media marketing is now you really, and I kind of want to bring this up and make sure that I'm driving this point home, is that if more people are using mobile devices, that means your social media campaigns must be mobile ready. And what that means is if you're doing a promotion on Facebook, or maybe you're doing a social media promotion that sends people to your website so they can sign up for a giveaway or sign up to be entered into a drawing or in some way participate in something, we want to make sure that that page you send them to, or the app in Facebook, or the promotion in using any of the other social media campaigns is always going to something that's mobile ready. Because where most people are falling down from a marketing standpoint is they'll create a great campaign on their website, but their website's not mobile ready. So a person's going to a site where the screen is squished all the way down. It almost looks like it's like 3-point font, so you can't see things. You have to expand it. People are trying to type in their name and their email, and the screen is moving around. Instead, make sure you have a mobile-friendly version. So therefore, the boxes are big enough. Things are popping up. The buttons is integrated with people's phones. It'll make it so much easier for you to convert and transition people if your site is ready for that. And that's really the big takeaway I want you to think about, as well as please, please, please make sure your websites are mobile ready. I have a link here on the left-hand side. This is Google. They have a cool tool where you can put in your website and it'll tell you if your site is mobile friendly. And for many of you, I normally do kind of the basic version. I check on my phone or my husband's phone and see what it looks like. But this is a great way to check because many of you may have older sites. Maybe you've had a site for the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and you've just been making some small tweaks to it. And what you may find is your site looks great on a desktop. It looks great on a MacBook. But when someone pulls up a phone, the boxes, the things are just not jiving. So please, please, please take a look and spend some time tonight or after this webinar, making sure your site is mobile ready and also making sure your campaigns are set up so people can interact with them. And this really goes not just in social media down the line. This goes into when you're sending out newsletters, because when you send out a newsletter, and for most of you, if you're using something like MailChimp or Aweber, they'll adjust the email so they are readable on your phone. But you have to remember, if you tell someone, hey, here's an email about a social media promotion we have, jump on our Facebook page and do A, B, and C. And if you set up a Facebook ad or a Facebook page or a Facebook app so people can sign up, and if that page is not mobile ready, what you've done is you've taken a person from an email that's very easy, interactive, and you sent them somewhere where they're not able to interact, where they're not able to enter their information, or the boxes are too small. So please, 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 this is huge, 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 huge as you think about doing campaigns and promoting through social media moving forward. And what's also interesting about making sure your campaigns are user ready is that you always want to make it very easy to convert people. Because, I mean, it's one thing when we're doing kind of give back campaigns, and I'm huge on them, and I think they're super, 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 super important. But I think what sometimes people forget is when you're doing a promotion, the promotion has a goal. And for many of you, you're trying to either generate leads, you're trying to get people to sign up on your email list, you're trying to drive sales, you're trying to drive some type of engagement, maybe gather feedback. And if you're trying to ask someone to take action, you have to make sure where you send them to take action, they can do it on whatever device they use, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a phone, whether it's a laptop or a desktop. So you really, really have to ensure that your campaign is user-friendly in a sense too. So it's not just mobile friendly, but it's user-friendly from the standpoint is that they can truly take the action that you want no matter what type of device they use. Okay? Next trend I want to talk about is tracking. And Well, many of you should be tracking and you should have been doing this all along. One thing I want to talk about is making sure that you're adding tracking to your social media campaigns. Where social media years ago, it used to be very difficult for people to know if social media was working, all the time you were spending on it, is it really linking to sales? And that's really not so much the case anymore. More and more tools are coming out. Google Analytics has a really great integration with other tools like Facebook and so forth, so you can track the activity that is happening. There are great ways that you can use tools, even like Google Analytics, where you can track the traffic that comes from Facebook and then do what they call goals. So you can see where that traffic goes in your site and where people exit after that. So I really want to make sure I stress today that when you think about doing more social media, when you think about how to measure what's working, and also because the biggest challenge with social media is there's so many different tools out there that sometimes we struggle with being on all platforms or being on 3 or 4 platforms, or we struggle with, should I be doing more in email, or should I be doing more on Facebook, or should I be on Instagram, or should I be doing this? So that you can make those better decisions, we have to make sure that you're linking in your analytics. We want to make sure that even if you have it on there, you're looking at your analytics so you have a better gauge on what type of traffic am I getting from all of these outlets, and where does that traffic go, and how does that traffic get realized into sales, into opportunities. And you can do this stuff not just in online marketing, you can do this in offline as well. So if you're doing something where you're sending someone from an ad over to your social media, make sure that maybe you're using a custom link that they use that ultimately you'll take them to Facebook, but it may be your website / Facebook. So that way you can track that link and track how many people type in that link, and take you over there. Maybe you're going to use some customized phone numbers. So instead of having one phone number for your site, you may have your main phone number. And what I tell a lot of people is maybe go out and get a Google Voice phone number and use that for some of your advertisement. So you can get an idea of how many calls come through on your Google Voice line versus your traditional business line. Because if you've used it in a campaign for the last 6 months, you can do a head-to-head comparison. So this is what I mean by tracking, starting to use tools and starting to integrate that into social media, so that if you do tell people to email you from social media, or you link them to a website, or tell them to call you, let's start using trackable tools so you can get a better understanding. As well as if you're doing any advertisement, especially Facebook ads, I've seen a lot of us, I worked with a lot of people on their Facebook ads, and many of them forget to use the trackable code that Facebook offers. And I know for some of you, you may not have coders and it may feel like a pain or something to do. But honestly, jump on a site like Upwork or freelance.com and hire someone to do a quick task. It shouldn't cost more than 5-10 minutes for a person to do it. So it shouldn't be an expensive thing. And ask someone to add it to the back end of your site or to your thank you page, because it's huge. There's a huge difference between understanding what traffic was brought to your site and what traffic actually converted into sales. And for many of the ad campaigns, you can do that, as well as a lot of the work and the tools that are in Google Analytics will allow you to do that as well. Okay. Let me just check really quick and see how we're doing on questions so far. What do you guys think? Have you guys been using the tracking? Have you been realizing that your sites may not be as mobile friendly as you expected? I'd love to hear if you're sitting out there on Facebook or Twitter. Like I said, you can use our hashtags. I'm seeing some comments come in where people are asking questions about the tracking. The tracking for ads, especially in Facebook, if you use the version of Facebook, you'll get multiple options where you can advertise to a page or create more likes. There's one that's actually called conversion or website conversion. When you click on that one, Facebook will actually give you the code that you can use and put on your site. So you just have to make sure you choose that conversion or website conversion option. So that's for that question. Mobile friendly, there was a question quickly about what makes a website mobile friendly. And what makes a website mobile friendly is that it is scaled to the device that a person is using. So when you're creating your website, oftentimes you're scaling it to the fact that a person's average browser might be, you know, 12,000 pixels wide, or let's use that as an example right now. And if that's the case, you're basically saying, okay, what does my website look at 12,000 pixels? But then what many sites do these days is they are called responsive. So if you're using WordPress, which I'm a really big advocate of, make sure you buy what they call a responsive theme. Because what you want to be able to do, and you can actually technically do this on your desktop as well, is if you took your browser and started to make it smaller and smaller and smaller, so you're taking it down from 1200 pixels wide to 800 pixels wide to 600 pixels wide and so forth, you should see your site shift, meaning boxes that were maybe to the left and the right will go under each other. So your content starts to become maybe a single column of content on your website. However, the difference is with a mobile web friendly site is those fonts will be at a large enough size so that they are truly readable on a site. The boxes will be easy to see. The images will adjust so that a person doesn't have to kind of scroll right to left, or use the zoom option to see everything on a page. If you like, you can look at our website. Just look at our website, pull it up on your desktop, and then pull it up on your phone, and you'll see how the sites resemble each other, but how content is kind of really created in that single column view. Okay, so that's the answer on mobile friendly. Other than that, we're just getting some general comments. So I'm glad you guys are liking this and hadn't thought of maybe using advertising and so forth. Okay, perfect. Well, I will keep continuing. We got a couple more slides and then we're going to wrap things up here. So let's go to trend number 6. Trend number 6 is about how social media used to really be about engagement, meaning how do you engagement and like being the first to generate topic and sharing other people's content and getting information out there. In many cases, a lot of people kind of saw themselves as the person who was on top of all the information that was being put out, and people came to you first for that information because you were not only sharing some of your own blog posts and so forth, you were sharing information from other places. So you kind of became the consolidator of all good and great content. And in many ways, what we're seeing is social media is really kind of shifting a little bit away from that. And the reason being is content is just being shared so easily. People are now following many of those brands. The way that we've all been trained to use news feeds, because now we can like or follow or connect with many of these brands and companies and even news outlets. Many of us are already getting that information in our feeds. So for you to be the consolidator of all great content is maybe not as valuable as you being a content maker. And what I mean by that is when you think about your social media strategy, you think about what you want to be doing on social media, you want to make sure that you have a large amount of time that you're spending creating content and sharing it with your audience. And this is about creating content that's unique, that's contributing to your audience, and sharing content in not just one way, but sharing it in multiple ways. So let me just break that down. So when I talk about creating content or sharing content, is the idea that we want people to start to come to you as a resource for new and unique things that they can't get other places, and fun and exciting things. So it doesn't have to be pure advertisement. It can be an experience, but the idea is that you want to offer that new and unique experience so that there is a reason for people to follow, people to share your content with their friends, and also a reason to keep you on the radar. Because if you're just sending me links to Veg News, the idea is, why don't I just follow Veg News and I can get all that information? So we want you to look at this differently. We want you to create content. And what I also want you to do is when you create content is create it in multiple formats. So if you create a video series or an interview series, not only post that video, and maybe the interview is 30 minutes long or 40 minutes long, cut it down to a snippet, maybe a 30-second or 15-second video, and then share it on places like Instagram or Facebook. Take that same interview and maybe pull out 2 or 3 quotes and turn them into images so that you can share those images on social media. Across the board. You may put that maybe on Twitter or even on Facebook. You can even use an item like I have here where we've started to kind of build these inspirational quotes for our fellow vegan entrepreneurs. And what we do is we put an image in there. As you can see, it kind of has our logo superimposed on it. We put our logo, our website, and also the hashtag that we'll be using for these inspirational posts, for things that we're going to be doing to inspire, to support, and help all of our fellow kind of vegan entrepreneurs or would-be potential vegan entrepreneurs out there. So when you're thinking about doing social media and doing it differently, I really want you to put your hat on and make sure you're creating content. And the content that you create, you're leveraging it so that you can do different posts in different places. Same thing here. If I create these images, what we started to do now is create a Pinterest board for many of these quotes and many of these images. So that way we're getting more leverage out of the work that we're doing to create these, as well as instead of just sharing things as text, I'm making things more visual, more eye-catching, and once again, we're able to cut through that clutter. So make sure you're putting on that content marketing hat when you're thinking about doing your social media and not just thinking about doing the shares, okay? The last trend I want to go through tonight is what I kind of call emoji love. And the reason I bring this up is we kicked off things talking about making sure you're using social media and seeing and understanding that social media is definitely in play for older crowds or for not just, as they say, not just for the kids. It's for the parents, it's for the grandparents, or even our single professionals out there without kids and so forth. But I thought I'd also end on a little bit different note that we also have trends that's happening in our younger audiences that I think create a great opportunity for you to connect with them as well. So if your product is targeted towards people who are in some of those other buckets, those 18 to 25 or 25 to 34 buckets, and even older. I mean, everyone uses these. But if you are, I want you to think about how do you use some of the trends that are coming up and popping up and use that in your social media. And emojis are probably one of the big ones. What it does is it allows you to show your kind of creative side because you're now using imagery to express an idea or thought, as opposed to just typing out text. And this works really well in Twitter, I find. It also allows you to reach a larger audience, especially for any of you that have international audiences or people who speak other languages as well, who buy your product or purchase your items off your website, t-shirts, makeup, skincare, and so forth. It's a great way to communicate with people in a fun way because you're using images. And if you can really get good at it, you can really get pretty clever. This is one of my favorite ones that was sent out earlier in the year. And, it might take a minute for you to catch it, but what it's really saying is it's saying, have a safe holiday. And then it has the don't sign. So it's basically saying don't and drink. So you have the wine, you have the pills, you have, the needles and stuff. So the idea is kind of like don't drink and drive. So it's kind of like drinking plus driving plus, staying away from the police or getting in trouble. So it's really clever how they're using these images, how they're using these kind of emojis to create a concept or an idea without the words. So when you think about your brands, you don't have to get as extensive as this. You can do something very basic, or maybe you're just starting out, just use some basic fun ones. Start with the smiley face ones, maybe integrate one or two of them, especially if you're teaching people to do something before they go on vacation, or you're saying, don't forget to pack up for this, or, there's so many great emojis out there for traveling, for product, for sunny days or versus snowy days or rainy days. So use those icons and say, if you're rained in or it's a rainy day, it's a great day to catch up on one of my videos, about, cooking or making a great dish at home. So definitely don't just when I think about telling people about trends and what's hot and what's new, is I want to make sure that you're always dabbling into kind of the fun and creative things that are popping out of society. And a lot of people do this in text messages, but really seeing a lot more of this in social media. And if you're not doing it, it's really, really a great way for you to kind of take your social media to a new way to be, and like I said, be creative. And some of you out there, I know, a really creative bunch, that this can be a really fun way to start to kind of pull people in. The other thing is, if you are thinking about doing more of this, and if you're on a Mac, I don't know, many of you know, because most of you probably are thinking about emojis from a text messaging standpoint, but you're maybe sitting there saying, well, Stephanie, how do I do this on my computer? Is if you're a Mac user, if you just hold down Command Control Space, while you're in Twitter or while you're in Facebook, it's actually I guess you can call it the Emoji Keyboard is integrated into the system. So a box will pop up and then you can just click on whatever emojis you want. So it's a really simple and easy way to do it. If you're on a PC, I find the easiest way is to maybe use your Chrome browser, and then you can integrate, or maybe I should say install, an emoji app, or extension is what they're called in for the browsers, that will allow you to engage or enact that keyboard. So that's how you can get it done. So I really, really think this is a fun way to pull people in. Like I said, creative way to do it. And because these things are now integrated into our computers, our computer keyboards, if you are doing a lot of social media on your computer, if you're doing it on your phone, then these keyboards for most of us have already been integrated in our iPhones and so forth. So you're able to do it. But I really think this is a good way to kind of bring in that younger crowd, do something fun and unique, and also kind of spread some cheer. I find emojis, what's really nice about them is because they do pull on that emotional kind of string in many of us. It's a great way to kind of create dialogue without kind of having to scream your message. And I think sometimes when we're using social media, when we're doing a lot of marketing, we're always trying to scream and make sure people can hear us and know we're here. And I think there's a huge opportunity when you're using tools like this, so that you're no longer just screaming. Instead, what you're able to really pull people in a fun and exciting way. Okay. So that's our slides for tonight, talking about what's hot, what people are doing differently, things that you need to incorporate in your strategy. So I hope tonight what you kind of took away is maybe one or two of these trends, and think about how you can use them to make your social media stronger, how you can use them to get more content or unique information out there, how you can use them so that you better know how you're spending your money, or using social media, especially things like advertisement, so you can create not only steady traffic, but steady sales opportunities in your business. So I did this, like I said, a little bit differently, where I think sometimes we think of like what's hot in social media. We want to see like a cool image or ad campaign. And I initially thought about that, but I thought this might be more impactful, because while there's great campaigns that are out there and that people are doing, what I really want you to take away from today and think about is how to take what you're doing and make it better, more impactful, and also be able to link it ultimately to sales. Because we do definitely want to do some engagement. We want to do some fun images, some fun videos. But what I find where most people are falling down in social media, or they're kind of bored with managing their own social media page because they're like, I put a status update and nobody's talking to me. What I'm finding is by using these strategies and doing things differently and making sure you have that mobile integration, you're going to potentially start to see more of either uptick in what you're doing, or starting to use social media in much more of a marketer way, as opposed to just thinking that I can blast out a couple of tweets, I can send out, a couple of facts for the next 3 weeks and people are just going to buy. That's not really what we want to do here. What you want to do is build a strategy and build a process where social media becomes that lead generation tool for you to drive sales, to drive awareness, and ultimately also support your community. Okay? So with that, thanks so much for joining tonight. I'm just looking really quick to see if we have any questions. I have one question here about advertising. How do you know how much to spend or when I should be spending? Questions about budgeting here. As far as advertising, like I said, I prefer to start with something small. So what I tell a lot of people is start with a few ads and short-term ads. So you may start with a 30-day, 45-day, 60-day ad. You're going to put a specific amount on there for those ads. So like I said, $5, $10 a day, and measure that and see what kind of results. When you find an ad that is producing, meaning you have a return because we're using the tracking code like we talked about to be able to track that traffic and how much of that traffic is going towards either our sales page or goal tracking through Google Analytics, then you know that you have a working ad. Once you know you have an ad that is performing well, then you set it up on that ongoing basis. So I don't want you to kind of go out tomorrow and just start plopping ads out and setting them up for the next 365 days. Instead, what you want to do is start with a targeted campaign, test that campaign, make sure it is delivering for you and getting the results you want, and then extend it out. A lot of people are using boost posts. I see a question here about the difference between boosting versus using advertising. Boosting is a great way to get a quick hit and get some quick traffic. I love using boosting for two things, either for events, so I can get the kind of like ball rolling on an event. I think sometimes when you first start out with an event page, if you don't have a large social media following, and say you're going to have a live event or maybe you're having an online event, by doing a boost for that event, you start to get people aware of it, start people knowing what's going on, and then I continue to post on the event page. So I'm hitting those people's streams, and then they tend to share it, and then that event can eventually kind of catch fire. The other way I use boost is for posts that do really well. I boost them, so if I know it's a winning post that I've already put on my page, why not boost it so I can get more traffic and get more leverage from it? I don't use boost for my ongoing or long-term goal, meaning placing the ad and then boosting the ad each time. I really think you want to have a set of ads that you use in the back end that are targeted. You have specific audiences that you send them to, and then you use boosting, like I said, as a way to either leverage a really well-performing post or an event. Someone had a question about emojis, about what if I don't really understand them, or how do you make an emoji work? It is a little bit of an art. So like I said before, start out with something very simple, with sunshine, rain, one or two. Even just start with the smiley faces or the different version of the faces, the confused, or the scratch my head or laughing. Start with some of those basics. You don't have to be so clever or feel like maybe you're not clever enough to do it. Don't be so hard on yourself. All you're doing is looking for some of the images that maybe help you express an idea or write out a sentence and see if an emoji can replace it. So like we have Vegan Pizza Day as an example. When we have Vegan Pizza Day, you might, if you're celebrating or doing something around Vegan Pizza Day or hosting a vegan pizza event, then you might, instead of having the word pizza, you might have a slice of pizza in that picture. So that's an example of how you would leverage an emoji in the middle of a sentence and kind of gradually work your way there. Okay. And then there's one other question about content marketing, creating images. Yes. Creating images, there's multiple ways to do it. There are a couple of different apps that you can use on your phone, depending on the phone you have. So you can just look online and see what some of the creative apps are, the apps that you can use to create an image. For most part, if you take an image on your phone, you can do overlays. As a baseline, Facebook does have it set up so that if you take a photo, you can actually edit the photo in Facebook and put text over top of that photo and then post it directly. So you don't have to use a third-party tool. I know a lot of people struggle with, trying to do the graphics and upload it and do all that jazz. So it's nice now that you can do a lot of that within the native apps when you're actually trying to post it. So I would start there. The other way I do them, and you can use obviously Photoshop and other tools like that. I also use some of my tools like Keynote. I'll just put an image in there and I'll mark up the image how I like, and then I'll use like my screenshot option where I can, take a screenshot of something and it turns it into a JPEG, and then I just save that JPEG and use it. So it really just depends on what you're comfortable with. If you want to do it in the phone or in Facebook, just to get the basics done. If you want to have them graphically designed, that's great. Or if you are Photoshop, have the skills for Photoshop, definitely go for that. If not, you can use something like PowerPoint or Keynote where you just copy the image, put it in there, use a text box, overlap it, put your hashtag, put your logo in there, and then you just take the square screenshot option. It's much easier or I do it a lot in a Mac, but you can do the same thing in a PC, and then you convert that into an image. And that's been a really time saver for me and cost saver, because calling a designer every time I need um, a little meme or an image done can be a little bit expensive. The other thing I recommend is create a template, so that every time you want to do it, you already have the logo, you have the hashtag, you have the URL already in place. All you have to do is put the image in there and then create it. So it will become much faster if you do it that way. Okay. And I think that's it. So far, everything else is just comments. And thank you. Glad you guys like this. I'm glad you like this format. Some people are saying that they're glad I did this more of in a trend format. So I'm glad to hear that. If you have any other questions afterwards, feel free to post. I'll be monitoring and checking it out. But once again, as always, thank you, thank you, thank you for joining. I look forward to our next webinar next week. And as always, thanks for supporting me and Vegan Mainstream. So we'll talk to you later. Everyone have a great evening. Good night.